The year is 2072. Technology has allowed people to go deeper into the virtual world. Because of the web, people became less emotional and more isolated in reality. In a world where human emotion is rare, it's hard to stay sane. I'm the virtual engineer, and I just finished another project. I think making projects somehow saves me from losing my mind. I set the timer, and when the time runs out, the project will be uploaded to the web. But before the project will be released, I just want to dip into it for one last time.
Electric Highways is a game that's quite special to me. It was the first game that I ever downloaded on Steam and was essentially my indoctrination into the world of PC gaming. One of my fondest childhood memories actually revolves around this game. We were driving to my grandma's house in the dead of night and I had this game booted up on my grandpa's old laptop. I was playing through it again for maybe the 5th time while listening to TobyMac's latest album, This Is Not a Test. As silly as this sounds, for me it created a sort of cozy and ethereal experience that has since stuck with me till adulthood. So what exactly is Electric Highways? I would explain it myself, but in my opinion, the developer's description does a much better job of explaining the premise of the game. Electric Highways is a game that's all about experience. Everything in this game, especially the visuals and music, have been created for the sole purpose of giving the player a certain kind of emotion. The setting takes place in a surreal virtual world made out of abstract 3D graphics, where the player must explore 10 levels, each with an individual theme. I think there's some irony in the dev's statement about emotion, considering the game takes place in the far future, where most people have chosen to seek shelter in the virtual world and isolate themselves from reality. Oh yeah, the story. You play as a virtual engineer who creates and uploads virtual reality landscapes to the internet. After finishing their latest project, they decide to dive into the game one final time before uploading the finished product. They set a timer for 30 minutes, and when the countdown reaches 0, the game will be uploaded. But don't worry, the timer itself has no bearing on gameplay, and you can explore each world as much as you'd like. But before I talk about any of the game's levels, I'd advise you to go play the game yourself. Electric Highways is game best experienced blind, and while I'll try my best, I highly doubt my video will do this game justice. Without further ado, let's strap on our VR goggles and jump into the first stage. Song 1 is a fantastic opening level and sets the tone for the rest of the experience. Unlike future stages, Song 1 feels more organic, with the landscape consisting of dreary blue cliffs and waterfalls. There's some man-made machinery here and there, like moving platforms, chain link fences, and teleporters, alongside small pond people who I can only assume built these structures. When I first played this game, I thought they were just relay towers of some kind, but later in the level you find one of them on the ground lying in a pool of blood, along with 3 other pond men standing over their body, which gives some kind of implication that these beings are actually alive. Now that I think about it, this might be the only level in the game that has this many living entities amongst its geometry. Every other level from this point onward is barren and completely devoid of life. Okay, this place is cool and all, but how do we leave? To exit the level, you simply have to find a star-shaped medallion and bring it to a gate marked with the same symbol. All of the levels are structured like this, with you solving some rudimentary puzzles to collect a medallion which will open a portal to the next level. Once the first gate is opened, a second gate will lower, and after that you're allowed to continue. Rise Buildings trades the falling water and blue cliffs from the previous level for steam pipes and skyscrapers. This level has all the hallmarks of a dystopian city, with oppressive architecture, bright lights, and cameras monitoring your every move. However, the cameras aren't the only things that are watching you. Just out of view, you can see this light blue figure who vanishes when you get too close to him. Keep him in mind, as he'll show up a couple more times throughout your playthrough. The puzzle for this level is stupid easy. All you have to do is push a button and follow a diamond-shaped hologram. This will destroy a glass barrier, allowing you to secure the medallion. But before we leave, I thought I'd point out this road crosswalk anyway. There are these little white lines that flow between these grates that say, when you touch them. I know that these levels aren't supposed to make sense, but I like to think that these little white lines are actually a visual representation of the millions of people surfing the virtual web. I don't know, just my own little theory. Other Neon is probably my favorite level in the whole game. There's something about it that's so vibrant and upbeat compared to the other stages in the game. The buildings are painted bright cyan and the sky is clear with not a cloud in sight. And the soundtrack is just, chef's kiss. If there's one level in this game that I wish was longer, it would definitely be this one. The puzzle for this stage is pretty unique as you have to hit switches to activate air currents, which will carry you upwards to the top of the level. There you'll find the medallion. Picking it up triggers an earthquake which causes large cracks to form in the foundation and water to burst from these cracks. I'm not entirely sure why this happens, but it's a fun quirk of the level either way. This level brings back so many memories. Do people even go to malls anymore? Our old friend the mysterious man in blue makes a return, standing at the top of an escalator. You wander around for a bit, admiring the mall's large but almost comical collection of pots. Seriously, am I playing a Legend of Zelda game? And then you see it, in all its glory, the boom! Picking this up triggers the second phase of the level, creating a giant green wall which forces you to take an alternative route by smashing through glass barriers that previously blocked you from entering. But the Border Destroyer doesn't just work on glass. You can also take your frustration out on the dozens upon dozens of tables and pots littered throughout the stage. After a quick smash and grab, the level gate lowers and you're allowed to continue. Spacelab Telekon is a level that screams 90s FPS tech base, which for the dev was probably a no-brainer considering this game is running on a source port of Duke Nukem 3D. Telekon feels the most normal out of the bunch, but that doesn't mean it has its share of weirdness. There are these screens scattered throughout the station that were left for you by the previous inhabitants. They say some interesting things. I still can't get over this one screen that is suspended in the air and appears to be made out of some weird fleshy material. Like, what even is this? Once you pick up the medallion, it triggers the ship's alarm and you make your way towards the exit. If you choose to poke around a bit more, you can find an extra screen in this room on the right that previously only had one. If you wait long enough, a strange figure will appear on the screen for just a brief moment. Venturing through the now opened gate, you'll find not an escape pod, but a one-way ticket to the cold vacuum of space. You read one final message before stepping into an elevator to conclude the level. This is probably the only time I'll say anything remotely negative about this game. I don't like Metroland. While the concept on paper sounds cool, when compared to the other levels of the game, it feels bland by comparison. Every space in this game feels alive and lived in, while Metroland feels like the equivalent of being stuck inside a computer in the 90s. There are some interesting elements like the strange piece of art that talks or the server room that disappears into the skybox, but other than that, it just doesn't do anything for me. If I were to fix this level, I'd probably add some NPCs you could talk to who might give you some insight into the space you're currently in. Besides that, I have nothing more to say. To me, Metroland is nothing more than a bad song and a good album. Along the park is what I imagine it'd be like to take a casual stroll around Central Park in the dead of night, while also previously overdosing on Benadryl. The park is one of those places that feels like it could feasibly exist, but at the same time you get the impression that something isn't quite right. Like most cities, the walkways are illuminated by street lamps, but also by these strange cauldrons of blue fire that decorate some of the entrances. There's plenty of greenery, like trees, hanging vines, and hedges. There's a structure that kinda looks like a fountain that has these giant boulders bouncing from each step and falling into an endless abyss. Upon reviewing the footage, I realized that the boulders don't come from the fountain itself, but actually just straight up fall from the sky. The park also has a projector room where our mysterious man in blue is watching a film of flying birds. I don't know why, but the way the music cuts out every time you enter the room feels super unnerving. To exit this level, you simply have to go through this teleporter and do some parkour to hit 3 switches. After that, you can collect your medallion and leave the stage by casually burning yourself alive. If Along the Park didn't make you feel uneasy, then Down Underground definitely will. This is the closest the game comes to being a straight up horror, and it does it extremely well. It captures a perfect sense of dread without needing any monsters or unnecessary jump scares. The funky electronic soundscapes of the previous levels are gone, and in its place are what I can only describe as Minecraft cave sounds but on steroids. This level doesn't have too many interesting things to note as it's fairly linear, but I think that's actually a good thing. Making this level more open would have definitely killed the tension and not made it as unfathomably chilling as the final product is. After locating the gate, you travel to the end of another hallway to collect the medallion and finally leave this wretched place. But not before one final scare in the form of this floating disembodied head that now occupies the center of the room. I remember this part scaring the crap out of me when I was a kid, and upon revisiting this section in a new playthrough, it still kinda creeps me out. I should probably get out of here before something bad happens. Crawling Time is another level that I really like. The aesthetic of the stage is basically Aperture Science, but if every single art asset was drawn by a 6-year-old. It's kinda hard to say anything else besides that, as the level's quite small and the only interesting thing about it is the art style. Oh wait, I completely forgot about the amazing time-wasting chamber! It's exactly what you think it is. Anyway, you drop down a hole, pick up the medallion, and warp to the 10th and final level. We finally made it. The Electric Highway. In all seriousness though, this is a great final level and a perfect culmination of everything you've conquered thus far. To unlock the exit, we once again require the assistance of the Border Destroyer. 2 teleports and 1 switch later, the Border Destroyer is once again in our grasp. We use it to break a glass barrier, and the man in blue appears one final time before we collect the medallion. We begin our ascent up the central tower, and the music goes quiet as we slowly climb the stairwell. The teleporter at the top takes you to some kind of generator room with a large white orb in the center. With nowhere else to go, we break the orb in the center, causing the city to go black and the level to end. We get one final cutscene of our protagonist before the timer reaches 0 and the game quits the desktop. But what if I told you that this isn't the end of the game? While you're exploring the highway, you probably stumbled across this room with a 5-digit color code. Throughout the game, there are these colored orbs with numbers that can be found across each of the 10 stages. Putting the correct code into the terminal will open the gate behind it, allowing you to access one final level. Fatal Error is like the experimental track on the so-called album. It's a glitchy hellscape comprised of assets from every previous stage, and I mean every stage. I keep looking at the footage to try and find anything to say, but I can't. Just look at this mess. And it doesn't help that the music is just as jarring and disorienting as the geometry surrounding it. After about a minute of walking through broken assets and glitchy textures, you finally find a teleporter. And then, it's over. You're back at the highway like nothing ever happened. Stepping outside, the music kicks back on again and the game continues as normal, though you're probably left with a lingering sense of both bewilderment and utter confusion. And that was Electric Highways. It's not the most unique title, but for my first computer game that wasn't made in Flash, it was truly something special, and I'm glad I was able to play through it again and share my experience. The creator of this game, Zykoveddy, actually made another game called The Mask Reveals a Disgusting Face. I haven't played it yet, but it looks very interesting, so I might cover it in the future. As always, my name's Kirby with the Gun, and I'll see you... Wait, why is there a frog on my desk? That wasn't there before. Oh. Oh, this can't be good.
Did I jump scare you? Yeah, I bet I did. You coward. You make me sick. Your weakness is pathetic.